Greetings and happy new fear, Wolfulites. I'm your host, Dr. Wolfula, with a review of the highly anticipated horror film, Night Swim. I couldn't say that with a straight face. Make sure you wait 30 minutes after eating before you swim in this pool, motherfucker. But before I dive headfirst into my review, I figured I'd talk about another aquatic horror that will probably be informing a lot of my upcoming vids. As of January 1st, 2024, Steamboat Willie, the debut of Mickey Mouse, has entered the public domain. And if you're at all familiar with my past year's videos, anytime something kid-friendly enters the public domain now, a horror movie is made of it. It's the new law of the land. Now, if you want to skip my Mickey Mouse horror movie talk and go straight to my Night Swim review, skip to this time code. If you're unfamiliar with US copyright law, inevitably the rights to a creative work expire after a certain amount of time, so anyone is free to use said creative work as they see fit. Disney has spent years successfully lobbying Congress to extend copyright law to prevent further creative works from entering public domain, which is ironic seeing as how most of Disney's animated films are based on public domain stories, but it's not cool when our shit becomes public domain. Well, Mickey Mouse became public domain ultimately, and indie creators wasted no time getting their own spins out there, specifically in the horror genre. The first film of this sort was announced with a trailer, Mickey's Mousetraps, and it looks decidedly low rent even by indie horror standards, depicting a Disney theme park as a boardwalk, seemingly shot exclusively inside a Dave & Buster's after hours with a guy in a horseshit-looking Mickey cosplay stalking some yokels. It makes the Five Nights at Freddy's flick look like high art in comparison. Now, the next Mickey Mouse horror movie that was announced is topical to my channel. The director of The Mean One, the last movie I covered on this channel, has also announced his own horror movie based on Steamboat Willie, but it won't be shot until the summer, so all he has to show for it is an AI art-looking teaser pic. If The Mean One is anything to go off of, most of the movie will just be stock footage anyway. There was even an announcement of a Steamboat Willie horror game called Infestation 88, and it honestly just looks like a generic SCP asset swap. Now, Mickey Mouse technically entered the public domain this year, but in reality, based on earlier copyright rules, Mickey Mouse has really been in the public domain for decades, but because Disney had so much control over copyright law and is, of course, a multi-billion-dollar company, nobody was really willing to challenge Disney's rights to the Mickey Mouse character, and that seems to still kinda be the case. Mickey Mouse is still trademarked, and as the logo of Disney, he's the face of the company. Disney even recently made Steamboat Willie the logo of their animated films just to enforce that shore in and of itself as a trademarked logo that can't easily be infringed. So just how much non-Disney Mickey Mouse stuff we'll actually be seeing is up in the air. Also, only Mickey in his original untrademarked form is copyrighted, so later portrayals of Mickey are still copyrighted. And things get really fucking pedantic here. Mickey doesn't wear white gloves within Steamboat Willie, but the title card shows him wearing white gloves, so you might think Mickey wearing white gloves is in the public domain too. But you'd be wrong because Disney's trademarked version of Mickey wears those white fucking gloves. There's a very big difference between copyright and trademark. To get around these technicalities, the early horror takes on Mickey that we've been seeing are mostly depicting him strictly as Steamboat Willie, and the Mean One director's film won't even call him Mickey Mouse, just Steamboat Willie. Mickey's Mousetrap, though, is playing a little faster and looser with Mickey, but that's where the other safeguard comes into place. Even if Disney could challenge a derivative work based on Mickey Mouse, if it's a horror version of Mickey, you can fall back on parody or the fact that it's so far from Disney's version of the character, nobody would mistake it as officially Disney. It's why seemingly the only non-Disney version of Winnie the Pooh we've seen since the character went public domain has been a horror film. It's the safest bet to go behind Disney's back. Now, I'm all for hurting Disney with a horror version of their most iconic character, but the reality is that low-budget, seemingly low-effort horror flicks aren't gonna really make a dent in Disney.
I'll be right back. And he's dead.
What?
Like if he was in a horror movie, you'd never say, I'll be right back, because then you don't.
Somebody would need to make an actually good, creative take on a horror version of Mickey that could redefine him for a generation and potentially lead to Disney retiring the character completely on their end. That would actually hurt Disney, but that probably just isn't gonna happen when what we have so far just looks like a way to make a quick buck off the back of controversy. We probably won't hear Disney's stance specifically on any of these Mickey Mouse horror films, and they'll probably all go through release legally unchallenged, which might be surprising to hear seeing as how litigious Disney is. They've shaped US copyright laws, and at this point they know the kinds of legal battles they can win and ones they can't, so it's in their best interest when things are out of their hands to just stay quiet. When the horror movie Escape from Tomorrow was shot in Disney's theme parks, Disney didn't say a word, didn't even try to sue. They just let the movie get released, and eventually it was just forgotten. The same thing happened when Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey was released, and the same thing will probably be said of these Mickey Mouse horror flicks. If Disney says or does anything about any of this, then it'll just be free publicity from the biggest entertainment company in the world. And Disney does not want to bring more attention to movies that make their mascot into a masked killer. And Disney especially doesn't want to bring more attention to Mickey being public domain. Disney is hoping that if they just stay quiet, this will all just blow over. I'll do my best to make sure it doesn't. Now to move on to my review of Night Swim, directed by Bryce McGuire, the first horror movie of 2024, and boy, it sets a dour tone for this year.
Alcohol and night swimming. It's a winning combination.
If you haven't seen the film's frustrating trailer depicting a game of Marco Polo gone awry,
Marco.
Night Swim is the story of a haunted swimming pool. Arr!
Ronan, you're dead.
Night Swim began as a 3-minute short film that first debuted a decade ago, and even for a short film, it's pretty thin on any actual narrative. Half of the short is just a chick swimming in a pool at night, and then eventually she sees a scary ring ghost lady and disappears in the pool. That's it. I'd ask for my 3 minutes back. For some reason, though, James Wan bought the rights to the Night Swim short to turn into a feature-length film with Blumhouse. I guess for James Wan to have something to fall back on, knowing in advance how hard his other underwater horror movie, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, would fall in its face at the box office.
If you lead, the 7 kingdoms will follow.
It feels like turning Night Swim into a full-length movie was ultimately just to make a point that some stories only really work in a short form, and I'll explain why in my review of Night Swim. But first, I have a message from my sponsor, me. Pledge to my Patreon today to support the channel, help it continue to grow, and you'll also get access to weekly movie nights every Sunday and archive commentaries if you miss the movie nights live. Just $5 a month to get a movie night every week. Here's the movie I'll be streaming next Sunday. Pledge to patreon.com/Dr. Wolfula if you're interested, and I thank you in advance.
There's a pool. Always wanted a pool.
Night Swim tells the story of the Waller family, the patriarch of which, Ray, is a Major League Baseball player forced into early retirement due to him suffering an illness that has caused his muscles to degenerate. So Ray's doc recommends that he undergo some swim therapy, which leads to the Waller family buying a new house with a pool. A ghost pool! After the Waller family moves into their new home and finishes restoring its pool, Ray the father starts to recover from his illness, even becoming faster, stronger, better than he was. But strange things start to happen, starting with the Waller family's cat Cider mysteriously disappearing near the pool.
Come on, Cider.
Ray's wife Eve herself begins having mysterious dreams about their pool, and Ray's kids Izzy and Elliot start seeing and hearing spooky things, Nosferatu-looking zombie-ass things. Basically, Night Swim is beat for beat every supernatural horror movie you've ever seen of a white family moving into a haunted house. It's just the hauntings exclusively happen inside a swimming pool.
Marco.
More specifically, Night Swim is beat for beat a worse, pool-centric version of the Amityville Horror, just not based on a quote-unquote true story. And when your movie's a worse version of Amityville Horror of all things, a shitty movie in its own right, things aren't looking good.
Dad?
I've been looking for you.
If you saw the vague trailer for Night Swim of a teenage girl just playing Marco Polo in a dark pool with nothing happening, that's actually an accurate depiction of what the movie is. It's just that for 90 minutes. It's so clear that the first-time director of Night Swim had no fucking clue how to expand his 3-minute short into a 90-minute movie after James Wan bought the rights. So the director/screenwriter stretches out the narrative with scenes of characters just swimming in a pool by themselves, thinking they see or hear something while they're underwater, but they're not not sure. They call out into the darkness, "Is anybody there?" This happens over and over again in the movie. It's so fucking repetitive, and for most of the film, nothing actually happens. Night Swim is just suspense with no payoff. It's the cinematic equivalent of edging, but like a not fun version of edging. The big obstacle with writing these ghost movies, even the pool-oriented ones, is you generally can't have anything explicitly scary happen for most of the movie, because otherwise you'd wonder why the characters wouldn't just move away. Just them being white can only get you so far with these ghost films.
We have to do something.
When it becomes clear that the pool really is haunted and the realtor who sold the Wallers the house reveals that somebody drowned in their pool years ago,
Maybe they weren't pool people.
the film stretches what little plot there was left by having the dad Ray get turned evil by the pool. Ray literally goes through withdrawals by not going into the swimming pool.
I've been looking for you.
So to try to find out what's going on with her haunted pool situation, Ray's wife Eve visits the old woman who previously lived in the house, and the old woman reveals that the pool was built over a magic wellspring. And I'm not kidding about that, the pool is not haunted, it's magic, and it can grant wishes like some kind of swimming pool genie. But in exchange, it needs to feed on a life, and Ray, the dad, becomes totally willing to sacrifice his son Elliot's life, because Elliot sucked at playing baseball anyway.
As a young boy, I dreamed of being a baseball.
The final act of Night Swim basically becomes The Shining, where the dad attacks his family over a magic swimming pool, but the father sees the errors in his ways and sacrifices himself so that his son will live. It's as stupid as it is lame, but thankfully, the movie ends with the surviving family members covering the pool in dirt, so that hopefully indicates, God willing, that there will never be a Night Swim 2. Unless Jason Blum needs some more cocaine money. We all need a little coke money every now and then, after all. Night Swim is one of those movies that's just a shame. A total shame. It was somehow made for $15 million despite having no stars and nothing happening in it. They could have used that money to make multiple, far more entertaining horror movies, but instead they made a film about a magic swimming pool that makes people vanish. Night Swim isn't just bad, it's really fucking boring. There are some parts that you can laugh at the expense of, but all the dull shit surrounding it makes it completely not worth it. I give Night Swim a Jelly of the Month Club membership out of a day swim. Ironically, if they just waited a little longer, they could have put Steamboat Willie driving his boat around in Night Swim's pool. They could have had something interesting in this damn movie. If you liked this video, like it, and if you loved it, click the subscribe and bell buttons for more vids. I'd also like to thank these fine folks pledged my shout-out tier on Patreon for all their kind support. Videos like this wouldn't be possible without all their help. Thank you for watching, see you next time. Dr. Wolfula signing out.